Welcome to the Gaudium et Spes podcast, where every other week we bring you Catholic teachings and stories of faith from people throughout the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. Now, here are your hosts, Suzanne McNinch and Ches Filippini.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gaudium et Spes podcast. As always, check out our last episode where we had Dr. Luke Arredondo and my co-host Ches here talk about Catholic social teachings. It's a wonderful series, and that episode in particular was really insightful. So please check it out if you really have the time. And if you don't have the time, make the time because it's important, and I think it's a great one. But we're back in the studio here today. We've got a teaching series from Bishop Bill, and he's actually going to talk about his own order.
This one's right from his heart.
Yes.
I don't think he even had to have like a note prepared. He just kind of knew it all, which is great. It's a lovely thing. Yep. All right, we'll start out. We'll see what's going on in our lives with our first line from Gaudium et Spes. The joys, the hopes, griefs, and anxieties of the men of this age, especially those who are poor or in any way afflicted. These are the joys, hopes, griefs, and anxieties of the followers of Christ. All right, Suzanne, we're not going to talk about the Gator situation. It's real bad.
Thank you.
It's not great. So what else is going on in your life?
Well, age is catching up with me, Ches. It's one of those realities I think we all have to face sooner or later. The reading glasses came about 10 years ago.
Okay. And
now I think we're progressing into needing something a little bit stronger and to see a little bit further. So, getting older is wonderful, but it stinks at the same time. It's like, now I've got allergies. I never had allergies before. It's like, whoa. But, despite all that, life is great. So can't complain. I still love being here at the Pastoral Center. Yep. It's just amazing. We have so many good people here, and we interact with so many great folks out at the schools and the parishes. And we're always, looking for new, innovative ways to do things. And I'm just really proud to be part of this. So, yes.
We're proud to have you on the for all you listening. Suzanne has had a few projects that have just about reached completion after monumental efforts. So there's a little glow on your face. Yeah. So
a little relief.
Are we talking bifocals, by the way?
Oh gosh, no. Trifocals. Goodness. Yes,
it's all.
I know. Sorry, somebody who's never worn glasses her whole life.
Oh, really?
Me, I haven't. So this is a big change for me, and I know. Yeah.
I was like one of those kids at third grade. I couldn't see the board anymore, so I've been dealing with it since then. But I have met folks like you who are just like, what?
I know.
I was always eagle-eyed.
Right. Yeah, well, thank goodness I'm not flying planes or doing anything else like that right now, so that's good. But hey, what's happening in your life, Ches?
Oh, man, lots of stuff going on, as always. I tell you one thing, one of our last guests was Jacob Hyman from Strong Towns up in Steubenville. He shared his conversion story and stuff, and I went to the Civic Leaders Summit that we're talking about in that episode. It happened in Pensacola this week. It was fascinating.
Yes.
It was so cool. There was several hundred people, speakers from all over the country, including Chuck Marone, who was on Dr. Neal's podcast. Okay. Fascinating keynote about the incremental growth of cities that then, after World War II, became kind of this instantaneous growth of cities and sprawl, and kind of how we deal with that and the changes, and great presentations on the local projects like the Bluff Line, which is a rails to trails proposal for Pensacola, and just really cool. A lot of people that I haven't met before that are just like civically minded and engaged, and it was really cool. It was really it was part of it was at the Sanger Theater downtown, and then part of it was at the Blue Wahoo Stadium. So one of the breakouts was in the home clubhouse. So we were in the locker room for a breakout, which our producer Derek Diamond knows well from his Blue Wahoo days. So fun times. It was good stuff.
Yeah, sounds fascinating. So nice.
Well, guys, it is time. We want to hand it over to Bishop Bill. He's going to think and talk about his congregation, the congregation that gave him the priesthood, his formation, all the things that we love so much about our bishop is so rooted in his experience with that group. So we'll see you on the other side.
Hello. Usually on this podcast, we offer teachings, history. We have some interviews and everything. But also, this is an opportunity for me to kind of share different aspects of my life. Like I think we did this a while ago, a day in the life of the bishop, or what does a bishop do, or what do I enjoy most about it? What are the challenges, etc. But I don't know that I've ever really talked about the Congregation of Holy Cross. So I'd like to talk about that because I am a member of Holy Cross. They helped to form me as the priest that I am and the religious that I am. And it's very important to me. So I want to share that with you. And a lot of people ask about that. What is Holy Cross? What is your charism? What is your history and all of that? So I just want to share that with you. I hope you find it very interesting. I get asked a lot of questions, like I said, so I figure I would answer those questions, the questions that I get asked the most. So first, let me just say this. Okay, so I'm going to even step back before Holy Cross and just talk quickly about the religious life. So because a lot of people don't know, what is a religious order priest versus, or, in relation to a diocesan priest? Well, in the parishes, in most of the parishes, certainly in our diocese, but in our world, the pastors, the priests there come from that diocese. That is, they pledge their lives to that diocese. They have basically been ordained to build up the whole diocese. They may be in your parish for a little while, then they get moved to another parish within the diocese. But basically, their whole life, they're interested in their vocation is to build up the diocese. Religious order priests are those from orders and societies and congregations like the Jesuits, Franciscans, Dominicans, Holy Cross, who are kind of on loan, if you will. That's not really the official word, but on loan to a diocese to serve for a certain amount of time. Usually their community, like in my instance, Holy Cross, has kind of agreed to take on a parish for a certain length of time, maybe 10, 20 years, or just ongoing. And that community will then staff that parish with priests as well. So that's kind of the difference between religious order priests and diocesan priests. The interesting thing is this. So I was a religious order priest for all my priesthood. I was ordained as a member of Holy Cross. And I went around to different places, and I'll talk about that, I believe, on the next podcast episode. And so now that I am incarnated in the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee, that's what I am. I'm a diocesan priest or bishop, if you will, and no longer a religious. It's very interesting. So that's one question. People say, are you still a member of Holy Cross? And of course, in my heart, yes. And they accept me still as a member. I think I'm in their official directory as a Holy Cross religious. But canonically speaking, actually, no. I'm a full member of the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. And you can't really be two things at once. That said, I am a member of Holy Cross, and I'm a proud member of Holy Cross, and I want to bring that charism to the diocese and to my ministry. So it's a little tricky. Are you still a member? Yes, but not officially. How about that? Now, when I retire, perhaps, I guess I could just go back to Holy Cross and wait, I'd have to give away anything if I have any money or cars or anything like that. And then I could perhaps profess my vows again and go right back into Holy Cross. Who knows what'll happen, but that'll be 20 some years from now. Hopefully Jesus will come back before then and we won't have to worry about it. Okay, so am I still a member? Yes. In heart, in pectoris, in my heart. Okay. What is Holy Cross? That's what people ask a lot. Tell me about Holy Cross. Okay. So there are a lot of religious orders and communities and societies in the world. The most famous ones are the Jesuits, the Franciscans, the Dominicans, and the Benedictines. And there's so many different types of each one of those. And so those are probably the most famous ones. But there are thousands of orders all over the world. And each one was founded based on a certain charism or a need of the day. It was St. Ignatius of Loyola who founded the Jesuits, Jesuit little Jesuses, if you will, Jesuites. He founded them so that they could educate and preach the word of God and go out on missions and bring more and more people into the fold, into the faith. Franciscans were founded by St. Francis of Assisi, basically to live a life of poverty and to preach on God's goodness, especially in creation, to be people of peace and prayer. The Dominicans are great preachers, and they were founded to do that and found universities and schools and all of that. Holy Cross was founded quite late. The ones that I mentioned were founded centuries ago. Holy Cross, along with so many other orders, was founded in the 1800s. I say that so many others were founded then because a lot of orders were founded in the aftermath of the French Revolution, when the church and institutions were devastated and pulled down and torn down. There was a lot of strife and everything. There was a lot of anti-church, anti-clerical sentiments. It was rampant in France and Europe, and so many schools, many churches were closed and shuttered and everything, and so a lot of people started to kind of rise up and say, let's rebuild this church. The founder of Holy Cross, Blessed Basil Moreau, was one of those. He was a young diocesan priest in Le Mans, France, and he started to gather around him a couple of other priests who were just on fire with the faith. And they said, you know what, maybe God is calling us to rebuild the church, not just here in France, but around the world. They had this missionary heart. And they came across another priest who had already 15 years earlier he had gathered laymen together, and he was calling them the Josephites. They were like little Josephs. They were teachers, and they were going to do the same thing. They were going to rebuild the church, but especially through education. And Father Dujarier, the founder of the Josephites, kind of entrusted this little band of brothers to Blessed Moreau, Father Moreau at the time, and he joined the two together, and they became the Congregation of Holy Cross. They weren't accepted right away, of course. It was under the diocesan bishop for a long time, and he kept applying to Rome for approbation, that is, for full acceptance as a standalone congregation, and that didn't come until finally 1856. Now, Moreau also, he had the brothers, he had the priests, and he also wanted to found orders of sisters and have them all form one family of Holy Cross. But Rome said, we'll accept you, but the sisters and the priests and brothers have to be separate. So the priests and brothers formed the Congregation of Holy Cross, and the sisters were a separate congregation. We still consider to this day the sisters, brothers, and priests to be all members of the family of Holy Cross. I told you that we were founded to build up the church through missions and by opening churches and parishes and through education. And it wasn't just in France, but immediately, even before we had approbation, before we had the approval, Holy Cross religious were going out to different parts of the world, Africa and Bangladesh and the United States. In 1841, several brothers came with Father Soren, and they founded the University of Notre Dame in Indiana. That was kind of the focal point of Holy Cross in the New World. But then it spread from there to New Orleans and Canada and out east and so many other places, California as well. And from there, they went to Africa, Uganda and Kenya and Chile and Peru and Mexico. And we just opened another new mission just last year in Papua New Guinea. So it's still happening, that we're still growing. We may not have the same numbers they had back then, but we are growing, and we still have that missionary zeal. So that's Holy Cross. Holy Cross is founded basically in the aftermath of the French Revolution as an attempt to gather people together, men and women, who would rebuild God's church, especially through education and through missionary activity. There's so much more to say too, but anyway. Okay, so people say, I see these initials after your name, CSC. What does that mean? And that really shows that I am a member of Holy Cross. CSC is Latin for Congregatio a Sancta Cruce, Congregation of Holy Cross. In Spanish, it works, Congregaciones de Santa Cruz. It works in Italian, it works in French. But in English, it would be CHC, Congregation of Holy Cross. But since we are a congregation that is headquartered in Rome, it's in Latin. So Congregatio a Sancta Cruce. And I put that on there. And it's interesting because if you want to talk about a priest who's a Jesuit or Franciscan, you can say, oh, there's a Jesuit, there's a Franciscan. You can't really do that with us. There's a Holy Crosser. So people just kind of, they say, oh, you're a CSC, huh? So that's how we call each other. We don't call each other that, but we'll say this person is a CSC. They belong to the Congregation of Holy Cross. Okay. Why did you choose Holy Cross? People ask me that all the time. And I'll just say I was surrounded by them. I grew up in South Bend, Indiana, right near the University of Notre Dame, which, as I said, is kind of like the headquarters for Holy Cross in the United States, in North America, really. And because we were so close to Notre Dame, the parishes were staffed by Holy Cross priests, brothers and sisters. I had some sisters teach me and some brothers as well, and the Holy Cross priests were in charge of our parish. My great uncle was a Holy Cross priest who taught economics at Notre Dame. Every priest, brother and sister that I knew, they belonged to Holy Cross. So when I thought about entering after high school, it was pretty natural that I would go into Holy Cross, that I would look at Holy Cross. I thought I should, just to make sure I was making a good choice, I thought I should be open to other orders and the diocese. So I did look into the Franciscans. I don't think I looked into the Jesuits, a couple of other orders, and then the Diocese of Fort Wayne, South Bend. And thought about maybe I should be a diocesan priest with Fort Wayne, South Bend, my diocese. But I was always drawn back to Holy Cross. And so there I joined this band of men. There were 7 of us in my class, and we went through formation. It was about 8 years, and met so many people, did so many things along the way that I ended up professing final vows in Holy Cross in 1993, being ordained a deacon, and then 6 months later being ordained a priest, all in the Congregation of Holy Cross. And so why did I enter Holy Cross? Because that's what I knew. Why did I stay? Because I came to love Holy Cross. What I love about it is the missionary zeal. Even though I joined and I was hoping to perhaps one day go to Bangladesh or India or Kenya or Uganda, something like that. But that never happened. I still have that in my heart. Just like St. Therese of Lisieux, who wanted so badly to be a missionary, but rarely left, the convent once she entered. I still have that heart. And I bring that hopefully to wherever I go. I served in Colorado Springs, back at Notre Dame, in Phoenix, Arizona, and Austin, Texas, and now in Northwest Florida. And I hope to bring that missionary zeal. I also love Holy Cross because of our charism. Our charism really is one of hope and even joy, finding that hope in the midst of the cross, in the midst of suffering, in the midst of trials and tragedies. And we embrace that, and I find that in all of my brothers and sisters in Holy Cross, and it's a delight to be with them. I'm not around them very often now. I'm on my own here in the diocese as far as Holy Cross goes, but occasionally I'll go see my sisters in New Orleans or some of my brother priests and brothers in a retirement home, in a retirement little house there in Cocoa Beach, or I'll go back to Notre Dame or other places as well. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this? The unique charism. What is the unique charism of Holy Cross? As I said, we embrace the cross, and that's kind of unique. I think our founder said we can't shirk the cross. We can't avoid the cross. I think many people would like to do that, just to kind of say, you know what, life's hard enough. I don't want to focus on the difficulties. Let's just skip to the glory of God and the good parts. But what I appreciate about Holy Cross is our charism says that we need to be with people in their difficulties, in their trials. Jesus said, take up your cross, and he meant it. And we must do that because there is no resurrection without the crucifixion. There is no glory without the cross. And so our charism is to try to walk with people in their difficult moments, to try to remind people, teach others about the glory that is beyond the cross, but also to accompany people, to walk with them. And I really appreciate that about Holy Cross. And so people ask, why is it called Holy Cross? Well, obviously. We focus on the cross, but actually the answer is not so obvious. The Congregation of Holy Cross was founded in an area in a small part of Le Mans, France, called Sainte-Croix, Holy Cross. So that's why we're the Congregation of Holy Cross. Not people think it's Congregation of the Holy Cross, but it's not. It's Congregation of Holy Cross. Now, it's a happy accident because our charism involves the cross and everything, but we were founded because of the name of a certain area in Le Mans, France. Also, people think because of that, our feast day must be the triumph of the Holy Cross on September 14th, but it's not. That's a secondary feast. Our founder, Blessed Basil Moreau, put us under the patronage of Our Lady of Sorrows, which is September 15th, the day after. So that's really our primary day. Even though we're Congregation of Holy Cross, we are under the patronage of Our Lady of Sorrows. And so that kind of confuses people. When I met Pope Francis 8 years ago, it was on the Triumph of the Cross. And I said, I am a member of Holy Cross. And he said, oh, it's your feast day. Happy feast day. And I didn't want to say, actually, you're wrong. It's tomorrow, because I didn't want to be struck by lightning. But I just said, gracias. Thank you very much. So where is Holy Cross involved? Well, as I said, we were founded in France, and then it just kind of went out from there. So still have a house or houses in France, as well as the original foundation there. Canada, United States, Mexico, Peru, Chile, countries in Africa like the ones I mentioned, Uganda and Kenya, Tanzania, Bangladesh. Now that's really interesting, because when we were applying, when our founder was applying for approval from Rome, that was one thing. Taking Bangladesh was one of the conditions they put on the congregation. The Pope at the time said, I'll do this, but you need to send people into East Bengal, which is now Bangladesh. It was a very, very difficult place. There were many martyrs before then. Many people had died by disease and by just violence there. And so our founder really wanted us to be approved, and he said, we'll take it. So we've been in Bangladesh ever since. So many of the priests and even bishops there are Holy Cross. And then India as well. And as I said, Papua New Guinea and other countries as well. Brazil, I'm missing a few, but they're there. People ask, how is Holy Cross doing? How are you doing for vocations and everything? We are blessed, I would say. We're blessed to have some pretty well-known institutions like the University of Notre Dame. We get a lot of vocations from there. Also, I think it's exploding in a good way in some of the countries in Africa, as well as in India and Bangladesh. We have a lot of vocations there, so that's really neat. It is growing there. It's not growing so much in Canada and France, which is pretty normal for those countries right now, but in Peru and Chile, Mexico, and other countries, it is growing, and we will be around for a long time, hopefully until Jesus comes to proclaim the kingdom of God. Okay, now, are there any famous people in Holy Cross that I might know? People would ask. Well, I'm glad you asked. First of all, I don't know if he's not famous, but we have two saints, one official saint and one almost there. The one who's almost there is our founder, Blessed Basil Moreau. He is blessed. We're waiting for one more miracle and for his cause to be accepted so that he can be Saint Moreau. But he's Blessed Basil Moreau. And but the only saint is, of all these people we've had, university professors and great administrators and key great preachers, founders of all these things, all these places, the one saint we have is a very simple soul, Andre Bessette, Brother Andre Bessette. He lived his whole life he served in Montreal in a college, basically like a high school there. And he lived in a small room. He was kind of frail. He wasn't the smartest person, I guess, in the congregation. And so they said, why don't you just tend the door? You can answer the door and help the visitors who come to the college, who come to the school. And he did that for years and years and years. But as he did that, people would come to see maybe an administrator or one of the priests. Brother Andre would talk to them and listen to them and pray with them And if they said, I've just come to ask Father to anoint me, or I have to pray over me, my knees, I have tuberculosis or polio or something like that, or whatever, he would say, well, let's go into the chapel, and he would pray with them, and he would take some oil from the lamp that was burning in front of the statue of St. Joseph, and he would maybe just rub it on their knee or something like that. And soon, hundreds, and then thousands, and then tens of thousands of people reported being healed by him. So people all over in Canada and even the United States were going to him or hearing him when he would come to speak in different places and being healed by him. And so he continued to do that, and he raised money to build what is one of the largest domed structures in North America. That is the oratory in Montreal dedicated to St. Joseph. And he was beatified by Pope John Paul, and then he was declared a saint. I believe it was Pope Benedict who canonized him. So he is our only saint. But there's a couple people in the pipeline as well. Other famous people might be Father Patrick Peyton. He is the Rosary priest. He had great rallies, prayer rallies in the Philippines, in Africa, and the United States with hundreds of thousands of people. I think there was 2 million people at one of his rallies in the Philippines. He's the one who coined the term, the family that prays together stays together. And a world at peace, a world at prayer is a world at peace. And he is in the pipeline. I shouldn't say pipeline, that's not official, but he's being considered for sainthood. But also so many people. Father Ted Hesburgh was the president of Notre Dame for decades and is quite well known and served many presidents here in the United States on many commissions and committees. There have been a couple of bishops in Holy Cross who then were elevated to the rank of cardinal, including the first one in Bangladesh, Cardinal Rosario. Pope Francis elevated him to the College of Cardinals. But also, I'm thinking of Archbishop Marcos McGrath from Panama, who played a key role in the deliberations of Vatican II. So many people, so many good people throughout the ages, and then there are many brothers and sisters as well, who did great things. Okay, I already talked about the feast day and the special days. The feast day is Our Lady of Sorrows. Another special day would be the Triumph of the Cross. This is kind of interesting. When I talked about Holy Cross, what is our title? It's Holy Cross. But before we were the Congregation of Holy Cross, we had the brothers. They were the Josephites, like the little Josephs. The Marianites, the sisters, the little Marys. And then Moreau wanted to call the priests the Jesuites, the little Jesuses, but that was already taken. So we were the Salvatorists. So the Salvatorists, the Josephites, and the Marianites came together to form Holy Cross. So we have other feast days that celebrate that, like Sacred Heart. That's the priest's celebration. The St. Joseph, the memorial of St. Joseph is for the brothers as well. Lastly, I just want to end with a couple of quotes. People say, well, what inspires you in Holy Cross? Well, first of all, it is the constitutions of the Congregation of Holy Cross. This is the rule of life, basically, by which we live. And so when I professed vows, I said, I make to God the vows of poverty, celibacy, and obedience according to the constitutions of the Congregation of Holy Cross. And our constitutions, I think, are beautiful, and they are poetic in a sense, but it's the first constitution, just the first 2 or 3 paragraphs that I want to share with you that really inspires me to this day. And this is it. And you'll notice the first 3 words are part of my Episcopal motto. Come, follow me. It was the Lord Jesus calling us. We were already His, for we bore the name of Christians. We had already been initiated into His church. We had been washed in baptism and confirmed in our belief and given the Eucharistic nourishment in memory of Him. But there seemed to come a time when the Lord was calling us to take some further step. We heard a summons to give over our lives in a more explicit way. It was a call to serve all people, believers and unbelievers alike. We would serve them out of our own faith that the Lord had loved us and died for us and risen for us, and that He offers us a share in His life, a life more powerful and enduring than any sin or death. And then the last paragraph of that first constitution. We wished to abandon all to follow Christ. We learned in time that we still had it within ourselves to hold back. We wish to be wholehearted, yet we are hesitant. Still, like the first disciples, we know that he will draw us along and reinforce our loyalties if we yield to him. So reading that as a boy, as a young man, I felt really compelled. I felt moved to join Holy Cross, to join this great band of men and women, to make a difference in the world and to preach the gospel. Okay, and I'll end with 2 quotes from our founder, Blessed Basil Moreau. This is one here first. This is kind of, I'll tell you after this. Here it is. We shall always place education side by side with instruction. The mind will not be cultivated at the expense of the heart. While we prepare useful citizens for society, we shall likewise do our utmost to prepare citizens for heaven. That's perhaps his most famous quote, and it's been kind of changed a little bit. You see, even in secular schools, I see this. It says, educating the mind and the heart of students. I saw that from on a commercial for a secular university. But that comes from Moreau. He said, we'll educate the mind, but we will not forget the heart. We have to transform the heart at the same time with virtues and values and the faith. So I love that. And then the other one, lastly, is just this. He talked a lot about zeal. Zeal is the great desire to make God known, loved, and served, and thus to bring knowledge of salvation to others. Activity flows from this virtue. Teachers who possess it fulfill the duties of their profession with enthusiasm, love, courage, and perseverance. But I love that zeal is the great desire to make God known, loved, and served. So that's a little bit about Holy Cross. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thank you for praying for us in Holy Cross, for the continued growth of Holy Cross throughout the world. And thank you for receiving me, this Holy Cross religious, into the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. God bless you.
Hello and welcome back. Boy, every time Bishop gives us a teaching series, I learn more and more. He touched on during his Pope Leo podcast about the difference between being a religious priest and a diocesan priest. And I just, to me, it was new information. I was very fascinated by it. And I really, the loyalty, the allegiance, and what you have, and the fact that, he is now a bishop. So he is considered, he's away from his order now. Yeah. So he is more at the diocesan level. So
it's such a funny, you're Catholic, as a Catholic, sometimes you're asked questions by non-Catholics like, what about these about priests? And they're like, why do priests, they have cars and stuff? Right. And they're like, don't they take vows of poverty? And the answer is, some of them do. Most of them don't. The ones that serve at most parishes that you ever encounter are diocesan priests. They don't take vows of poverty. Bishop, though, did.
Yes, he did.
So, first thing that struck me, the one I literally did not know, it's the Congregation of Holy Cross, not the Congregation of the Holy Cross. And he's like, yeah, it's actually just named after a town in France named Saint-Croix. I was like, wow. Yeah. I did not know that at all. So that was a fun fact. That was really cool.
Well, and I think just the history lesson alone and the fact that after the French Revolution, all of these orders really started exploding and popping up and everything. And so I learned a lot from that too. So I thought that was really neat.
And then we learned, I thought that Bishop was just kind of a one-track, his grandfather taught, or his dad taught at Notre Dame.
Great uncle, I think.
Yes. One of the family members taught at Notre Dame for forever. I thought that was the only thing he ever considered. He was like, no, I thought about the Franciscans. I thought about just the diocesan priesthood for Fort Wayne, South. Another thing I didn't know.
Yes, exactly.
And that discernment process must have been interesting in his family. Now with his little brother, also a Holy Cross priest. What if he had gone a different direction?
Yeah.
Would we have him here today?
Yeah, I don't know.
He was just Father Bill in Fort Wayne or something like that. Just wearing funny socks and nobody would have ever... Anyhow, he would have been great anywhere he went. But
yeah. But it made me, well, I mean, I went online and I tried to learn a little bit more about the order itself and where do they have parishes and things.
Yep.
There's actually one here in the state of Florida.
Yep.
It's down in the Diocese of Orlando. And so...
St. John.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you been to it?
My parents were there before they moved up. Yeah, so it's right next to Melbourne, and Bishop's gone down there several times to hang out with them. It's a massive... growing, it's like it's one of these like suburban communities going like, and they built this ginormous church that is bigger than anything else in Brevard County now. So, but they're beloved. My parents love the Holy Cross priest there and stuff. So,
Fantastic. Yeah, it's just neat. So.
Yeah. One final thing I really loved hearing about, just kind of also his desire that, Holy Cross, this is the cool thing about religious congregations. They don't just, we are bound by our 18 counties. That is our jurisdiction. That's who we have to serve. That's who we will serve until the Holy Father, hopefully never splits us up. But a religious congregation can go anywhere and everywhere, and like, so if you're a Holy Cross priest, you might end up in Uganda. You might end up in Bangladesh, which Bishop talked about, which was really cool. That he had a desire that maybe, and he said the Holy Father, as Father Moreau was trying to get it off the ground, was like, you got to take Bangladesh for me, because I can't get anybody to sign up for it. Right. And that's the unique thing is like for our diocesan priests, they might go away for studies or maybe get sent to the seminary, but it's like you're going to be at a parish in these 18 counties. Right. But if you're a Holy Cross priest, you might be halfway across the world. Yeah. So that's cool.
It's such a diverse thing you can do. So you're not just typecasted into a parish and in a diocese. You can really expand out and do so many different things. So, and
really, we see it. His experiences in Colorado Springs, and then especially in Phoenix at the Andre House, are so helpful for his ability to connect with people. Yeah, from any walk of life as a bishop. That's just such a cool thing that, again, a religious order just offers you opportunities that shape your professional skills. Whatever. Sure.
Yes.
I'm talking to the human resources director.
No, and I think we're so fortunate and so blessed to have him selected as a bishop and to come to our diocese, because he brings all of those good qualities from his order here. And you can see that in the letters that he's written and his, drive and motivation and his evangelization. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, hope you enjoyed that one, guys. It was a special episode for us to listen to. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time with another faith-sharing story from someone in our diocese, and we'll see you then.
Thank you for tuning in today to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. If you would like to know more about our podcast, please visit our website, gaudiumetspes.net, or go to ptdiocese.org and click the button that says podcast. If you listen to the audio version from an app such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, be sure to rate, review, and comment. If you watched us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe or leave us a comment there as well. Thank you for joining us.